love Undertale. Like, a lot. But man, is it horribly designed. We're gonna fucking take a look at it. Like, keep in mind, Toby Fox is not a programmer. He kind of just wrote a bunch of spaghetti code and hoped it worked, right? It's all about the feeling. It's all about the story and the characters, not about the actual gameplay. Deltarune is actually made by a goddamn team, so it's on more polished. So let's take a look at this. It's called Undertale. It's a wholly made game. You're about to see the spaghetti code that is Undertale.
Okay, you saw the title, but I'm not talking about the gameplay. I'm not talking about the dialogue. I'm not talking about the story. I'm talking about the way that the game was made. See, Toby Fox was not an incredible developer. He never claimed to be, he never wanted to be, but he still made one of the best-selling games of all time. Because the code of Undertale is filled with a bunch of interesting workarounds to problems and many failed attempts.
I remember the up-down glitch. This was a really good way to get genocide runs over with.
You know how you have the option to either kill enemies or spare them? Well, if you decide to butcher them all, like a psychopath, which I'm sure you know is called the genocide route, you're eventually given the choice to erase the world. And when you do that, the game comes to an end by crashing itself and exiting. Well, what was originally meant to happen in this ending was a little more intense. The initial idea was to actually delete the game itself off of your system. Gone as if you had just uninstalled it. But the thing is,
can't do that.
Toby didn't know how to do that. He tried. Bless his heart, he tried. And you know what? It would probably take me a hot minute to figure out how to do that too. But it's really funny to see his attempts at doing.
Question is, I was supposed to delete the game. You see, based on chunk code, it shows Toby Fox have failed attempts at doing so. That's really funny.
So in the code, you can see here that he tries every case sensitive.
If file exists, Undertale.exe, 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 Undertale.exe.
Version of deleting the file name Undertale, but no luck. There are other games that manage to do that, and the effect is very unsettling. You feel completely
DDLC, yeah, I was gonna say DDLC is a good example of that.
Powerless. Doki Doki Literature Club kind of does something like that, and so does a game called One Shot.
One Shot, I love this game. It's so good. I can't play it though because I already know what's gonna happen.
The idea is that you only have one chance to beat the game, and if you close the game or leave, well, the main character who you're controlling and needs you dies of neglect, and then you don't have a character to play the game with, so you're done playing the game. It's pretty intense, so you can understand why Toby wanted to do something like that, and it would have resonated heavily to feel completely responsible for not only killing off every character but also destroying their world. In an alternate timeline, that is the genocide route ending. The many endings of Undertale are part of what defines the game, but another part of that is the art style. It's quirky, it's colorful, and it's
also made by necessity because Toby Fox is a bad artist. Like, in the best way possible. Like, he doesn't know how to make sprite art. Like, what? How does that work? Deltarune's really good art, though, because it's made mostly by Temmie, I think, the art.
Probably noticed, not perfect. It's not beautifully shaded, the line work can be a little funky, and it's kind of inconsistent. I was trying to find the general consensus on whether people liked the art in Undertale or not, and I made the mistake of opening a Steam thread, which is the one place I found that's worse than a Reddit thread.
Don't do that.
But I did get the information that a lot of people passed on Undertale solely because of the art.
Really?
And what's funny with that is that a lot of Undertale's art was actually removed or changed because it looked too good. Yeah, there's this art of Papyrus where the animation was too good, so they had to simplify it. And this art of Doge had to be redone because it, and I quote, didn't look crappy enough. The bad art, and I say that very lovingly.
And then Toby Fox like, wait, that's a bad idea. Temmie, can you like make art? And Temmie's like, yes. And that's how the art got good.
Definitely has a charm to it though, and even the completely unused art does too.
Yeah, it's my favorite place too. Like the fucking scene where you're like stepping in the columns and the camera fucking pans to Sans and he's like, hey, you know what OV means? It means level of violence. You know what level of violence is? You kill people. Do you know why you kill people? Because you do it. Okay, bye, dirty brother killer. Ah! And you're just like, what the fuck was that?
This was an early test sprite called Lava Creature, which is later renamed to Pole and used as an object without the face. Big Bob has no known purpose, but just kind of exists unused in the game. And here's this sprite of Flowey, which I think is meant to be funny, but it's honestly the most unsettling expression that I've seen this character have.
Maybe it's one of his, like, you kill him sprites?
I can imagine Flowey saying some pretty terrifying things with this face. Or this one. Wow. And speaking of, another interesting thing about the Code of Undertale is actually the way that the dialogue is handled.
Yeah.
Usually, when you make dialogue in a video game, you have a distinct file that has all the possible text that can pop up in your game.
Yep.
This is usually a CSV file or a JSON. And you can think of it as basically a database for text. So then, at different parts in your code, you extract specific parts of this file, and that'll depend on what character you're talking to, if you have a certain item, whatever. And that's one of the most efficient and common ways to do it. But
well, that's for a game maker itself. I know since I'm a game dev, Unity has some plugins you can use that make the dialogue system a lot easier. There are literal like dialogue like asset packs you can use that makes it so that each dialogue line is like an index. And you can call out that not on a .csv file, but like in like an actual in-editor like user interface. Is really neat.
The way that Undertale handles dialogue is much worse. All of the dialogue in the entire game, every text box that pops up, is handled in one massive if statement. This is what it looks like. It's called a switch statement, and it works like this. A condition goes here. Let's say we're looking at a number. Now, if that number is 1, do this. If it's 2, do this, etc. So for Undertale, this was a huge statement containing all of the dialogue. And every time dialogue was run, it would run. Case 737 out of what must have been at least 1,000 lines. Now this is technically decompiled code, so it looks slightly different, but I imagine that it's like, oh, if you're in this part of the game talking to Papyrus, make it say this. If you're in this specific place talking to this specific character with this specific item, do this. Undertale is already a highly custom experience where the dialogue varies greatly depending on what choices you make, so you can imagine the sheer size
it's so inefficient,
of the switch
yeah.
statement. And usually, something like this would be very bad, because it would slow things down and just very inefficient. But Undertale itself requires such little space and memory that I guess it's fine. It doesn't...
Yeah, it doesn't matter because it's a 2D game. It's like, you can run Undertale on a fucking potato.
Cause substantial lag anywhere, and I guess Toby was fine doing it this way, so hey, all the power to him. He can make the code as unoptimal as he wants, and it doesn't matter. And he can write it however he wants to. There are rooms with literally hundreds of if statements. There's like 10 cutscenes controlled by one object nestled in an increasingly verbose series of if statements to determine where it goes. The snowballs in that one room have like a bajillion vertices. And then the best part...
I don't know why.
Doesn't matter. Kudos to Shay on Twitter for that one. They also told us that. The moving text box gag in the...
Shay is a Undertale speedrunner. I think they either had or still have the world record for pretty much every category.
Conveyor belt room creates and destroys and recreates the text every single frame in order to give the illusion of a moving box. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Instead of just moving a box, we're gonna make it a stop-motion animation. Toby clearly writes whatever he wants to, which is why when you inspect the Undertale website, you're actually given a fun little message at the very bottom that reads, "What are you doing? Looking for secrets? Don't put your nose where it doesn't belong, or you might learn something you don't like. Hee. Toby actually once talked about how he's sad that games in this era don't have any secrets hardly, which I agree and disagree with, but...
There was also... Here, I want to show you something really quick. There was... I don't know if this YouTuber is going to talk about this, but I'll kind of bring this up just in case. There is a hidden file called abc123_a.ogg. And this is what it sounds like. I'm not making this up. I have actually heard this before. This is what it says.
Hello, have some respect and don't spoil the game.
It's impossible to have mysteries nowadays.
Because of nosy people like you.
Please keep all of this between us. If you post it online, I won't make any more secrets.
No one will be impressed.
It will be your fault.
This was in the actual game files. There's a big theory that these are like the little like gaster people that you see around like very rarely in some areas. I kind of agree with that, you know. But like, you could just data mine a fucking game and it would just have everything just handy. You know what I mean? It's fucking weird.
Undertale is definitely one of the games out there with a lot of secrets. Secrets throughout the game that you might actually never find. And they're designed to be that way. And not because you aren't digging hard enough for them, but because at the start of each new playthrough in Undertale, you're actually assigned a random number from 1 to 100 called a fun value. And then different rare occurrences happen depending on what value.
Like the Gaster followers and Gaster himself right here. It's really fucking weird.
If your number is in the range of, say, 2 to 39, you'll get a call from a random number as you're walking through Snowdin. Other events will only happen if your number is one specific value or in a very small range. The occurrences that do happen are kind of just fun little eggs or short dialogue or small changes that don't affect the gameplay a whole lot, but it is cool. And not a lot of games will predetermine a value at the very start of your game that affects encounters, because that means you're sacrificing a lot of content that the player would just never run into. It's a classic game developer's dilemma. You want your players to have a custom, personal experience, but the more customization or choices you give them, the less gameplay will be visible across the board. But Undertale is built differently, because it said, you know what? I don't care. You'd have to replay the entire game in order to get some endings, and there are so many conditionals that go into every dialogue statement. Heck, you skip nearly all the puzzles in the game if you choose to kill every enemy. Undertale is clearly a game made out of passion, wanting to tell a story, give you things to think about, and put you into a video game where your choices actually matter. Not the illusion of your choices mattering, where encounters are the same no matter what dialogue option you choose. Which, by the way, is the stupidest thing in game design, but whatever. Undertale don't do that. And the best part is that to make an experience like that, you don't have to be an expert programmer. If anything is the takeaway from this video, it's that. Games aren't a science. You don't have to be perfectly optimal. Of course, some things should be, or else we get this fun thing that we call lag, but they don't have to be flawless in how they work. They just have to work. They have to do what you want them to do and tell the story that you want them to tell.
Yeah.
Now that, my friends, is why Undertale is the most horrible game ever written. And I hope it's clear by now we know I was not talking about the gameplay, the dialogue, or the story, because that is incredible. The game is imperfect, it's quirky, a little weird, a little funky, but it's a lovable story, and it's really cool to see how many other games it's gone on to inspire. I'd be willing to bet that
I want to fucking play Undertale again on stream sometime, but like the 9th anniversary just passed. Maybe for the 10th, I could see what I could do.
At least 50% of solo game developers could tell you that they were inspired by Undertale. That's all I got, though.
Undertale,
I'm losing my
Earthbound.
voice. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. A wonderful rest of your day. If you're interested in joining a community of game...
Yeah, good video. Thank you for making that video. It was very nice.